DC is one of the cities in the country having a large number of homeless people in the United States.
15-year-old girl allegedly stabbed the 15-year-old boy inside the station.
The homicide rate has jumped again. A DC community is mourning the murder of a 10-year-old girl.
Many as 50 to 70 shots were fired.
DC in the early 1990s came to be known as the murder capital of the country.
See, I'm in 4 different time zones. Conference call till 9, dog. We on wherever we are needed. Chi-Town to Belize, Malawi to DC. We fighting to get free. We equalizing the balance. We mitigating the violence. We tired of hearing sirens. Who gonna do something about it? We doing something about it. Olay, yeah, we them small town heroes bringing back light to ward off evil. They try and get a hold on your cerebral. Careful what you let in your mind. We beseech you. Tired of them talking about bricks, about twerking, about clips, about Birkin, about hate, about lean, about fake, about greed. That's the same reason I gotta steam the block any given afternoon at the club after school. Late show, we be at the nightclub after 2. Same mission, different attitude. We talking about love, about trust, about power, about tribe, about truth, about peace, about youth. What up? Hello. So first I want to say thank you to GFEL for having me here. I go by the name of MGM Brown, founder of the Swaliga Foundation. Swaliga is a tribal word. It means passion, and we help young people find their passion, particularly through STEAM education, science, tech, engineering, arts, and math. Now, before we get into it, again, I want to say thank you for having me here, but I have to be honest, I am extremely frustrated, exhausted even, at the amount of work that we're doing, and at the end of the day, our young people are still dying in droves. We're here at a $1,000 a ticket education conference, and back home, our kids are dying even still. So let's jump right in. Let's get to the facts. Here you see the education scores for the International Student Assessment, and what you'll notice, it's a flat line, it's dead. There's no improvement. Now, if we zoom in internationally into the United States, we'll see that the US is still actually below average in math. And us zoom in further to the nation's capital, you're looking at graduation rates in Washington, D.C. D.C. has the lowest graduation rate in the country. Why? If we zoom in further, Ward 7 and 8 of D.C. have the highest unemployment rates in the country. And as a result, here you're looking at the homicide rate in Washington, D.C., which is well above the national average and has been that way for almost a decade. We need diversity of thought in the world to face new challenges. I love this quote from Sir Tim Berners-Lee. He's actually the creator of the World Wide Web. And when he created the internet, he made it free because he understood that we needed diversity to have different voices at the table. So I'm here to speak on behalf of those voices, the young people that have been forgotten about. To tell you a little bit more about myself, I was born in Washington, D.C. I found a passion, a love for music at an early age. I began writing poetry, writing songs. My parents got me into piano lessons, so I took piano. And that love translated into other areas. I ended up singing in the youth choir at church, joining a rap group. And we began to develop our talent. Now, fast forward, one of my friends that I grew up with is now incarcerated for X amount of years. I have another childhood friend that was a neighbor of mine, murdered at 17 years old. These are intelligent, talented people, the very minds that we need, that are wasting their potential because they don't have the resources that they need. That's who I'm speaking for. Now, fast forward, I got to my senior year of high school, and I was performing with the group called 3 in 1. We're performing all over the East Coast at different places, schools, churches, and we got offered a record deal from a major label my senior year of high school, right? So I'm super excited at this point. I'm like, all right, cool, I'm gonna graduate, I'm gonna go on tour, be a rock star. The deal fell through for whatever reason. And now my parents are looking at me like, well, you know you're going to college, right? So I said, okay. And I was good at math and science. So my thinking was that, okay, I can go to engineering school. I'll be an engineer. They make a lot of money, right? I'll just go to engineering school. Little did I know, that was one of the hardest things that I ever had to do, was complete engineering school. But this is what we teach our students now, because even though I don't remember every formula, every equation that I learned there, I learned how to think like an engineer. My critical thinking skills allow me to succeed at any subject academically and outside of the classroom. So that's what we start. And I'm gonna teach you that same engineering design process here today. For those that are taking notes, we're gonna walk through it. It's a 5-step process, and we use the acronym called DIVE, D-I-V-E-E. Can y'all say that with me? Say DIVE. One more time, say DIVE. Excellent. So the first step in the engineering design process is to define the problem. You have to clearly define the problem. Now, we saw those stats earlier. These are facts that you can look up for yourself. This is the problem that we're facing. And the reason that it affects everyone that is hearing me right now is because if we don't get that talent and do something different, we're gonna be looking at this graph 10 years from now, and it's gonna be looking even worse. And that's gonna affect everyone, economically, socially. We need these voices. So as we continue to define the problem, I wanna talk a little bit about what that trajectory is like, to actually go from music or not even planning to do an engineering degree and then moving through engineering school, and why there's a lack of diversity in STEM-related fields. Why is that? We've been talking about this for a while now. As STEAM has become more popular, there's still a lack of diversity. Now, when I got to Drexel University, I was taken aback. I made it to my 3rd year, and I found myself in the dean's office of the College of Engineering. And he's explaining to me, hey, if you don't fix this, you won't be able to graduate here. That was a wake-up call for me. And what I realized is that because I had stopped doing music, I'd been there for about 3 years. I was suffering from mild depression. My grades were slipping. I wasn't focused. After that meeting, I found a studio right near my campus, and I began to engage in music again. And I realized the importance of that creative outlet. For me, that was a game changer. My grades began to recover. I was more focused in school. And I want you to look at the graph that's on the screen for a second. This is engineering and technical degrees awarded by gender. You can see it's still staggering, male and female. Now, if we zoom in, the African American representation is even worse. 12% of the country, yet less than 5% of all engineering degrees are going to African Americans. The reason that that is a problem is because diversity is the key to innovation. If we continue to have these conversations without every voice at the table, we're missing out on solutions that all of us need. That's the point of why this is so important. So we develop a program that focuses specifically on using the arts to engage these voices and help them understand that trajectory. Maybe they don't want to be an engineer. However, in order for them to succeed, we need those minds to understand that their voices are important. So again, we're talking about the problem, right? And I want to move forward to solutions. And that's why we're here at GFEL. I'm going to give you an example of what we call steam hip hop. This is a song called Energy that teaches the law of conservation of energy.
For this one.
I want y'all to rock with me for a second. We're going to do it like this.
Steam the block.
Look.
Yeah, so that's that energy, yeah. Yeah, equal energy, yeah. So that's that energy, yeah. Equal energy, yeah. Yeah. For life,
Yes.
yeah, you got it for life, my nigga, baby. It's for life, yeah.
I need y'all to say it. I want to hear you say this with me.
You say energy, yeah. Energy, yeah. Equal energy, yeah. Energy out. Energy, yeah. Energy out. Energy out. Peep the energy, that could take many forms. We'll talk about it later. First I hip you to the norm. Two main types of energy, the real go-getters and the ones who pretend to be. Differences out in your mental. If you don't go plant the seed, you just got potential. Like a plane sitting on top of a hill. It's all potential energy standing still. Now imagine that. Versus you rolling down that hill and knowing exactly where you headed. Even if you don't know it, it's you moving, that's kinetic. Energy to fly, converted from heat and work. Your energy, the only thing that's been free from birth and for life. Yeah, I said you got it for life. Yeah, I said we do this for life. That's why little baby, yeah, we do this for life.
One more time, say it with me.
It's that energy, yeah. Energy, yeah. Get that energy out. Energy out. Energy, yeah.
Yes.
Energy out.
One more time, real loud, let me hear you.
It's that energy, yeah. Energy, yeah. Equal energy out. I see you. Energy out. Yeah, it's that energy, yeah.
Yes.
Equal energy out. Look, energy out. Hey, if you don't know by now, we do this for a living. Here to steam your block in your city or your kitchen, putting energy into these words where they hit your system. They come out your speaker, image up, you get the picture. See, your energy can only be converted. Translation, I'm creating or destroying it. That's why we putting in this work to eat. Our energy usually turning into work or heat. Makes sense, the boss we putting in times any distance is equal to joules. Translation, run it up, I be dropping them jewels. In the gym with the gems, and this is a marathon, stay true for life. Yeah, I said you got it for life. Yeah, I said we do this for life. I said we do this for life. Yeah, okay, say it's that energy, yeah. Energy, yeah. Equal energy, yeah. I wanna hear it. Energy, yeah. Say it's that energy, yeah. I see you. Energy, yeah. Yeah, energy, yeah. Say it's that energy, yeah. Energy, yeah. Equal energy, yeah. Energy, yeah. Say it's that energy, yeah. Yeah, equal energy, yeah. Energy, yeah. Yes, okay. I'm a G, huh? Energy. Yeah.
Thank you. That song was called Energy. Another one of my favorite quotes says, "Education is the most powerful weapon that can be used to change the world." That was by Nelson Mandela. You probably heard this quote, and I know that Madiba was absolutely right when he said this. I'm gonna add something though. Music education is the most powerful weapon that will be used to change the world. Music education. Let me get more specific for you. Everybody in this room understands the power of music education. I'm gonna tell you how. If you learn how to read, you learned your ABCs. Now, how did you learn your ABCs? Help me out. A, B, C, D. Okay, see, you know already. We learned it through a song. We didn't stare at a piece of paper. Barely able to walk before we learned how to read. We learned through music. But for some reason, once we get to public school, music is usually taken out of our classrooms. That creative element is pulled away, and it actually stifles our creativity. And yet we wonder why there's low engagement, truancy issues in so many neighborhoods across the country. We need the arts in order to reach this generation. I'll be honest with you. The young people today are a completely different breed. They communicate through music, through dance. TikTok, I can't dance, so I'm not gonna try. TikTok videos, right? And if we're not speaking their language, there's no way we can communicate with them properly. You have to be able to tap into their culture, which is hip hop, their language, which is music. If we're serious about engaging them and propelling them to the future, we have to make that connection. Now, there have been tons of research studies, data, that shows the power of music education. And I'm gonna keep harping on that point for a second, because right now we're talking about solutions. Solutions. Here you see a study that was done where math skills and reading skills for 5 and 7-year-olds were improved dramatically just by receiving music education. Another research study done showed that learners who had drama, keyboard, voice, instruction improved their IQ. These are scientific facts. I'm not here to sell you on it. It's already been proven. Music education is a very important solution that we need. Now, let's continue the story. So I gave you step 1 of the engineering design process. It's DIVI. We defined the problem. We've clearly defined it. The next step, I, if you're taking notes, stands for imagine. We have to brainstorm, imagine solutions as if there are no limits. How can we solve this problem? The next step, V, vision, V-I-V. The third step in the engineering design process is vision. We have to get our best ideas and put them on paper. You might draw a prototype sketch. I like the idea of a coach. They get the play, huddle up on the field, they say, ready, break. And then they go execute the play or the vision. Now, when I came back from Drexel University, I came back home to DC, and I immediately saw the disparity. The achievement gap is right there in our face. And I began to think, how can I give the skills that I gained in engineering school and use my artistic talent to give back to my community? I had a gentleman that spoke into my life. He said, you're supposed to shepherd an organization to help your peers find their purpose. He didn't tell me what it was going to be called, what the mission was going to be, nothing. But I knew that he was telling the truth. I never planned to be an educator, never planned to start a nonprofit, but I knew what he was saying was true, and hence the Swaliga Foundation was born. Now, when I came back in 2012, the first thing I did was go to the Boys and Girls Clubs of Greater Washington, specifically Club 14 in Northeast DC, which is on that map that we saw earlier, the unemployment rates, Ward 7. These are some of the most impoverished areas in the United States. Also where most of the talent is as well. And what happened when I came there, they said, hey, we're glad to see you. We just got a brand new studio donated here, but nobody here knows how to use the equipment. We don't run it. I said, great, I got you. This is what we're gonna do. They had about 5 teens that would come. They wanted to learn how to rap, learn how to make music. I said, cool, I'm gonna show you how to do that. We're also gonna learn about physics. We're gonna learn about math and other things that you need to know in order for you to be successful. And that program went from 5 to 25 to 50 in a matter of months because they brought their friends. And mind you, this is after school. This is voluntary. Nobody's making them come to these sessions. And we developed a program that became known as STEAM the Block. You heard me reference that. STEAM the Block uses digital arts to teach engineering and applied science. And that program then spread to the region and then nationally. This is one of our most powerful tools that we use. Now, again, going back to vision, I was still trying to figure out how Swaliga can actually be a benefit, get useful. And what happened, I got invited to South Africa in 2015 for a leadership retreat. It was my first time ever on the continent. Completely changed my life. I was blown away. And the organizers of the trip heard about Swaliga and they said, hey, would you want your students to have this same experience? I said, absolutely. Yes, everyone needs to see this. And even though we didn't have any budget, no big sponsors, we're still a young nonprofit, I said, we're gonna take students over to South Africa. The first year we took 2. It was 2 students. The next year we took 5. They said it completely changed their life. The following year in 2018, we formed the Global Education Exchange Coalition, or GEEC. And we took 100 students from across the United States over to South Africa. That's the video that you're seeing right now. When we got there, we engaged in our pillars: STEAM education, health and wellness, entrepreneurship, all working together, people from different cultures. Now, if you've ever traveled, you understand, even if you're not going to a different country, if you go to a different city or just a different place that you've never been, there's an immense amount of learning that happens because it's new sounds, new sights, new smells. Yeah, all of these things are important. Cultural.
On behalf of Swaliga Baby Travel, it is my pleasure to welcome you aboard Flight 1000.
I'm about to take you on a trip right now.
With service to outer space.
Swaliga, baby.
This one is called Atmosphere.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Exclusive Pyro.
Flight attendants, prepare doors for atmospheric departure and mic check.
Hey, Olay, mic check, image your captain here. We are now exiting the atmosphere. Now if you look out your window, what you'll notice here is first we gotta go through the troposphere. Now that's the troposphere, it's the troposphere. It's the most dense layer of the atmosphere. Everything from the ground up, 9 miles high is the troposphere. That's the troposphere. And if you feel it start to get a little cold in here, that means we about to move through the stratosphere. Now that's the stratosphere, it's the stratosphere. It's the second most layer of the atmosphere. It's where the planes are flown, call it the ozone. Pressure change here with the temperature. Clouds look a little different, 31 miles up. Here in the stratosphere, it's the stratosphere. And we up, lift off, yeah, we about to live. We up, lift off, yeah, we about to lift off. G-force to take us up to a higher place. Then we rockin' in outer space. Lift off, yeah, we about to lift off. Lift off, yeah, we about to lift off. G-force to take us up to a higher place. And we rockin' in outer space. Mesosphere, it's the mesosphere. That's the third most layer of the atmosphere. Turning meteors into stones, the coldest of the zones. Tends to heat up from that infrared. We in the mesosphere, it's the mesosphere. That's the third most layer of the atmosphere. Turning meteors into stones, the coldest of the zones. Tends to heat up from that infrared. And we out, lift off, yeah, we about to lift off. And we out, lift off, yeah, we about to lift off. Let's go. G-force to take us up to a higher place. Then we rockin' in outer space. Lift off, yeah, we about to lift off. Lift off, yeah, we about to lift off. G-force to take us up to a higher place. Then we rockin' in outer space. Thermosphere, it's the thermosphere. Now that's the fourth most layer of the atmosphere. Now this the biggest of the zones. Aurora's roam. Yeah, satellites are prone to connect to your phone from the thermosphere. It's the thermosphere. That's the fourth most layer of the atmosphere. Electricity tend to fluctuate. Enough energy to bounce back your radio waves. Are in the ionosphere, the ionosphere. Most charged up layer of the atmosphere. The last layer ahead and the next you'll hear as I take it to outer space is the exosphere. Now that's the exosphere, it's the exosphere. That's the uppermost layer of the atmosphere. I said the exosphere, it's the exosphere. That's the uppermost layer of the atmosphere. Then we up, lift off, hey, about to lift off. So we up, lift off, yeah, we about to lift off. G-force to take us up to a higher place. Then we rockin' in outer space. Lift off, yeah, we about to lift off. So we up, lift off, hey, hey, and let's go. G-force to take us up to a higher place. Then we rockin' in outer space.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be advised. The captain has turned on the fasten seatbelt sign. Please be seated. We are ready for departure.
Thank you.
Exclusive Pyro.
Now, that song you just heard is called Atmosphere. We used this song in that video that you just watched to educate young people as young as 5, 6 years old about the layers of the atmosphere. And here you see us working in Southeast Washington, D.C., the exact same location of those stats that we saw earlier. These are more than just numbers, people. We have real solutions to get this talent where it needs to be. So, these are the types of tools that I want to encourage, whether you're an educator, whether you have students, whether you have an educational business. We gotta include the arts so that we can include everyone into the conversation. We'll do a quick recap. So, Divi, if you're still taking notes, I'm gonna give you the last 2 steps really quick. We did D, define the problem. Lack of creativity and innovation in public schools. Number 2, imagine. The I, imagine, brainstorm solutions. STEAM education. Next, vision. That's when you take your best ideas, you get your vision on paper. That's an important step. Now I'm gonna give you the 4th one right now if you're writing. It's execute. You have to execute your plan. This takes execution. It takes all of us working together intentionally to solve the problem. And then lastly, the last step, number 5, is enhance. Engineers are always looking for a way to improve upon the design. I personally have been doing STEAM education for almost 10 years, and I still want to get better. I know it can be better. So, now to the action, because that's a circular process. VEE takes you back to the beginning. The next action, we're preparing to have our annual STEAM the Block party in Washington, D.C., August the 14th. Now, the summertime is the most dangerous time in Washington, D.C., and in most inner cities around the world. Because what happens? Kids are out of school, nothing to do. It's hot, people get agitated. We've seen the numbers. So our goal is to make sure that we mitigate that with programs and resources like what you've been watching this time. So I want to again say thank you. If anything that you saw or heard here today resonates with you, please connect with us. In fact, we need you to connect with us because, again, diversity is the key to innovation. We need all sides of the table communicating. With that being said, again, my name is Image. I want to say thank you again for having me. I actually have something. The first 5 people that go to swaligababy.com and register, and we have the QR codes as well. If you didn't catch it on the screen, you can get it later. The first 5 people, I want to give you an official Tribe
celebration
Swaliga
times
t-shirt.
as soon as we touch down. Them lights a little brighter every time that we
As we
come
build
round.
this
Went from
platform.
volunteering on Bennett Road to standing on the beach,
Okay.
looking at the stars to my dinner coat, shouting thank you, God.
Once
As I
again,
say
thank
my
you so much
grace.
for having me.
You don't
Peace
know
and
what
love.
we've been through, excuse my face. Look, I'll tell you about it later, but for now I'll say, yo, this for all my youngins out in Lago State. The elders, we gon' celebrate the
that was
heavyweight.
awesome.
Southeast to
All right,
South
everyone, we're
Africa.
gonna take a
Better
quick
place,
coffee
so
break.
some more life. Many nights, many
3.
days, so we here now. Time
That'll
to
be great.
motivate. Yeah, we kicking the door in, bust it wide open, ain't there lane closed. Take a moment, have my phone on airplane mode. Been up early in the morning, executing this goal. Now it's time to let loose. Gotta know that we are doing the impossible. The tribe is unstoppable, moving overseas.
Check it,
What you
check.
mean? We got a lot to do.
Just in
And
case
these
you didn't
days, it
hear,
ain't
we are
really
meeting
a lot
back
to
here
prove.
at
Got all my youngins with me,
3:40.
you know we on the
Thank you.
move.
We gon' celebrate like it was a holiday. We earn it like every day. Money coming in, post up another win. From DC to Trinity, we going in. We gon' celebrate like it was a holiday. We earn it like every day. Money coming in, post up another win. From DC to Trinity, we going in. It's a celebration, standing ovation. Business handled, next destination. Pour out the champagne, salute the campaign. Swaliga baby, and Olay. Please learn the names. Years of hard work have finally paid off. We done came a long way so far. Been building and giving back to my hood. I don't say much, what's known is understood. It takes a lot to run in my shoes, to do what I do. Check the stats, man, I've always been true. And the work that I put in, I hope it changed lives. If it didn't, hell with it, it was all worth the ride. Many tears cried, many lost lives. Neighborhoods ripped apart right in front of my eyes. But I still do this from the heart. Put the work in, now it's time for the bottles to pop. From SA to
Yeah, we
D.
doing the impossible. The tribe is unstoppable. Moving overseas. What you mean? We got a lot to do. And these days it ain't really a lot to prove. Got all my youngins with me, and you know we on the